Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our third episode of the JV Talks podcast. My name is Jakub Vaniš, and we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2 in sort of a review mode today. I've seen it yesterday in IMAX, and I've been blown away, and I love the universe, I love the book, so I am full of thoughts that I want to share with you. So buckle up, get some popcorn, and let's go to Arrakis, let's go to Dune. So first of all, I wanted to talk about, the screen that I've used for this one, and it's the IMAX that we have in Prague. And I think we're super lucky in Czech Republic to have one of the biggest and best screens and projectors in the world. Actually, I think there are just about 30 of them in the world, and most of them, I think 20 plus, are in the US, and the rest is, just spread it throughout the world. And one is in Prague, because this IMAX is one of the biggest, but also the projector is able to do the 70 millimeter print, which is by far the highest quality of IMAX that ever exists. So if you have a chance, go for it. I bought the tickets in pre-order, I think about a month ago. They just started the pre-order. I did it 1 hour after that, and I was only able to secure just few last seats that were kind of, I think not the best position, and still it was super crowded and sold out, right? But still, it was an incredible experience. I would recommend to everybody to see it on the biggest possible screen available. This screening was also, let's say, full of tourists. I know, because this IMAX is so great, that there's a lot of Germans and people from Austria and of course Slovakia, etc., coming in just to see this one. All right, so this is a film made by a famous director that is actually getting bigger and bigger name in Hollywood. His name is Denis Villeneuve, and he is known for works like Prisoners. He also has done the first Sicario movie. He did Arrival, which is one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I really love the topic of that one. And he also did a sequel to Blade Runner from Ridley Scott originally. He did Blade Runner 2049, which also is one of my favorite movies. And Dune Part 2, of course, is a follow-up of Part 1. And that also is definitely in my, let's say, top 20 movies, how transformative and how incredible that movie is. So I really keep it close to my heart. Now, let's talk about, what happened in the Dune Part 1 for some of you that forgot, because it's been, 3 years now, I think, almost 4 years since we've been to Arrakis. So Dune Part 1 is a story. It's basically covering first part or first half of the Frank Herbert's book. So it is about Paul Atreides and two, let's say, bloodlines, two royal families kind of battling against each other, the Harkonnens and Atreides. The Atreides are from Caladan, from like a, let's say, lush planet with oceans, and Harkonnens are from Gedi Prime, which is like an industrial planet, and they fight over a planet called Arrakis, which is the only source in the universe of the spice, so-called spice. And spice is a substance that is super valuable, the most valuable substance in the universe. For you to understand where we are in this story, this is basically like a future of humanity. The year is something like 10,000. But what happened to humans is that in around our time, actually, they developed artificial intelligence and, self-thinking robots. And they started to take over. There was a huge war, so-called Butlerian jihad between people and the robots. And in the end, people were almost wiped out, but they prevailed, and they banned any sort of computers, any sort of robots, any sort of artificial intelligence. So in the Dune universe, it is not possible to have any computer or computing power. Therefore, people needed to evolve to become computers, because, for example, to navigate through the universe and to go to next planets, etc., just to avoid like meteorites and other planets, etc., you would have to be able to calculate incredible amount of data. and that was previously done by computers. So you have humans, so-called mentats, that are basically like human computers. They are just trained to be human computers. But also you have so-called guild navigators that are just basically they are soaked in spice baths or like tanks full of spice. They are not even human anymore. They almost look like a fish. And because spice gives you kind of properties to see glimpses of future, they are able to see multiple futures at once and know which will take you, to your destination without, colliding with a meteorite or with an asteroid or with anything in your way. So that's why spice is the most precious resource in the universe, because it allows travel among the stars, among the planets. So the Harkonnens are responsible for harvesting of spice, which is only placed in this one place in the universe, the Arrakis, the Dune planet, which is like a desert planet. And because they are becoming, let's say, kind of more and more powerful, and the bloodline and the family of Atreides is becoming more and more popular, the emperor, the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, who is kind of ruling the whole universe and the whole humanity, all of these bloodlines and all of these royal families. It's almost like in medieval times, it's kind of coming back to these bloodlines and royal families. So because these two families are becoming so, let's say, powerful, he decides to kind of stage a war. So what he does is he takes away the harvesting operations from Harkonnens that became obscenely rich with this, and he takes Atreides and puts them there and makes them responsible for it. But this kind of sets up a war between these two families. What happens in the first movie is that the Duke Leto, which is the father of Paul Atreides, which is the main protagonist of the whole Dune, let's say, saga, he is betrayed very soon after they arrive on Dune or to Dune, and he's killed, unfortunately. Spoiler. so he's killed, and then almost the whole family of Atreides is wiped out. Almost their whole army is wiped out. So it's quite nasty. And then just Paul Atreides, the son of Duke Leto, and his mother, Lady Jessica, they both escape, and they escape to the desert, and they are almost killed there multiple times, but in the end they are saved by the Fremen. And Fremen are the local people that learned how to live in the desert among these big sandworms, etc. So this is where we ended up with the Dune Part 1, and Dune Part 2 actually picks up immediately right after this. And just as a quick story premise, I'm gonna be talking about spoilers later on in this podcast, but right now not yet. But just as a quick story premise, what's gonna be happening is basically we follow Paul Atreides and his mother, getting accustomed with the Fremens, becoming one of them, and they kind of fight with this becoming of a messiah complex, because there is a looming war among all of these royal families, and kind of sign of revenge for what they have done to Leto, which is the father of Paul. So that's the premise of this movie. But just to compare these two movies, the Dune Part 1, what I loved about it is that it introduced the universe really gracefully. It's just a beautiful, transformative movie that takes you there. Really, the cinematography is super nice, but it's also quite slow. I think a lot of people that are really into like modern blockbusters will not enjoy it. It kind of resembles of the first part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So it's very similar to that, because also, let's say the Fellowship of the Ring was kind of slow. There is not that much action, and this is how the Dune Part 1 is also. And in comparison, the Dune Part 2 is almost like the Two Towers. There's a bit more action, more fights. It's more grandiose. There's a bigger epic scale that we're taking into. Now, I wanted to talk about some of the actors and how they portrayed, these characters. I think, so the lead here is Timothée Chalamet, and Timothée, he's quite young, though I think he portrayed Paul like the best ever. And Denis, the director, was heard that like without Timothy there would be no Dune, that he would not be able to actually do this movie, to shoot this movie without him. And you can see why, because he goes through such a range, right, from this almost super young and naive, son of Leto who doesn't want to do anything with politics and with power, to like this huge messiah figure who is super menacing. And this arc is just, he's in every scene where he's in, he's magnetic. Like it's really, really incredible to watch his portrayal of this, and he has done so well. I've also seen the previous Dune movie that was done by David Lynch in 1984. And yeah, this is day and night. Like this portrayal of Paul is just so believable. Now, I think who is seconding him is actually Zendaya, who is kind of the female lead, and she is the heart and soul of this movie. And she has actually, there are some changes compared to the book, because she plays a character called Chani, kind of the love affair of Timothy. And Chani doesn't have that big of a role in the book. However, in the movie, she is having a huge role, and she doesn't say much. There's not that much dialogue. Denis, the director, actually famously said that he hates dialogue, that he would love to make a movie where there is zero dialogue, and you would just be impressed by the images that you see and the story is told by the images. Zendaya kind of portrays that a lot with her eyes. Like the work that she does with her eyes is really, really great. And she is one of the few people in this that don't buy into this whole prophecy and into this whole messiah figure. She just stays to the ground. She's like one of the normal people, and she is, like I said, the heart of the movie, but also the heartbreak of the movie. So yeah, watch out for her performance. Next one I wanted to mention is Rebecca Ferguson. So that's the mother of Paul, Lady Jessica. She becomes a so-called Reverend Mother, and she's just menacing. She's this witch. It's really mind-blowing to watch her performance, and yeah, she's extremely scary. And I think she done really well, especially in the Water of Life scenes. And you're in for a treat. This is one hell of an actor. Austin Butler has a role of kind of the main antagonist in this one. He has not been seen in the part 1. He's now in the part 2, and he plays Faith Ratha. And Faith Ratha is one of the Harkonnens. He is the nephew of Baron Harkonnen, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, and he's just a psychopath, right? Like he is super menacing. It's very unfortunate that he doesn't have that much screen time, but wherever scene he's in, he's stealing the show. Like it's almost makes you feel uncomfortable to watch what he does and what he says. And I've heard that he actually enjoyed it as an actor. I think that's another super young actor, just like Zendaya and Timothy, that we'll have to watch out for, because this is the future of Hollywood. So Austin Butler, kudos to you. Stellan Skarsgård plays Baron Harkonnen, and it's kind of the same role as in the part 1. He's incredible. He spends every day 7 to 8 hours in makeup preparation, because he just plays this huge menacing fat figure, and there's just a lot of props and makeup. There is almost no CGI. So he does that really well. He's, again, super menacing and just disgusting piece of a human. Dave Bautista also plays a Harkonnen. He plays Raban. He was much more menacing in the first part. In the second part, you're almost kind of sorry for him, because almost everything that he wants to do, kind of crumbles underneath, and it's just bad luck after bad luck. There are a few scenes where I almost felt sorry for him, but Dave Bautista, being Dave Bautista, he is just incredible. He also does a great job, though. I think, if I would have to kind of rank who does the best in this movie, it's Timothée, then followed probably closely by Rebecca Ferguson, Austin Butler, and Zendaya, and these were the best. But we're not ending there. Javier Bardem is playing Stilgar, and Stilgar is kind of the lead of the Fremen tribe, and he really kind of loves Paul and what he becomes. He is just such a believer in this prophecy, so he would follow him everywhere. And he's almost adding like a comedic sense to every scene where he is in. And Javier is almost indistinguishable also in his makeup, but he does so well, and he has a, I think, way better part than in the first one. I loved every scene where he was placed. Then we have Léa Seydoux as Lady Fenring, one of the Bene Gesserit witches. And she is just so seducing, so dark. Unfortunately, very small role. She has just a couple minutes of screen time, but yeah, she does. She's incredible. I loved her in the latest Kojima's game, which is called Death Stranding. She has a way bigger role there, but here she also really stands out, and it's very unfortunate that she doesn't have that much time. Then we have Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan. So she's the daughter of the Emperor, who's played by Christopher Walken. So let's talk about both of them. Again, unfortunately, both of them, they don't have that much screen time. Though if there's going to be a part 3, and there's likely going to be a part 3, then Princess Irulan and this role of Florence Pugh will be bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, they were great, but I don't think that they stand out compared to others. So these were the actors. Now I think the next thing that needs to be praised is the camera, the cinematography, and that was done by Greg Fraser. And he is just, the way that he works with scale. These images are, supposed to be printed, honestly, and put on the wall because it's just piece of art. Also, the work with colors, together with the VFX, with the visual effects, they are just remarkable. It's like I said, it transforms you to be standing on that other world in Arrakis, and I loved almost every second of it. And no wonder Greg Fraser also has done the Star Wars Rogue One. He has done I think the Creator, which is one of the newer movies as well. And he just has an eye for these kind of iconic shots, so you're in for a treat. Next thing I wanted to talk about is the music. Again, this is done by Hans Zimmer. He has done such a great job in the Part One of my favorite soundtracks. And apparently, he enjoys it a lot because it's his favorite book. And in his concerts, he plays a lot of this music from this universe, from Dune movies. He just, again, scales it up much more. It's a little bit of a pity because there's not that many new themes. He just expands on them. So there are not that many surprises. But for example, the Water of Life scene, with his music is just like a horror movie, thanks to his music. So the music just adds a lot to it. But also, talking about the overall sound design, sometimes they don't use the music at all. So there are scenes where they just want to have it even more impactful, and there is just nothing, and you can hear a pin drop, in the cinema. So Hans Zimmer, again, kudos, incredible work. One of probably his best soundtracks, and he is one of the best conductors there is right now. And like I said, the sound design is just like in, for example, Star Wars, it's made out of these little sounds here and there. There's just a ton of it in here as well. And it's just, vibing like with this dark and cold universe. So yeah, again, incredible work of art there. And this overall movie basically works with a lot of topics and themes that are actually very current nowadays, unfortunately. So it's about fundamentalism, tribalism, environmentalism, and kind of this cry for ecology saving. There's also a topic of like fake news and how dangerous propaganda is. How politics work and scheming, and backstabbing, and overall like war for resources and colonialism. But also, unfortunately, nowadays, very current topic, the atomic and nuclear weapons are also in these movies, and banning of them, and how they can be used as a political weapon, kind of to threat others. Fate versus free will. So like I said, a lot of themes that are vibing with the current with the current state of our own population. And it's incredible that it has been basically written in the 60s, right? So this is I don't know what Frank Herbert was doing for drugs, probably some LSD, but it really allowed him to see a lot of the future topics, and it's a work of art, both the book and this movie. And together, part 1 and part 2, they work so great together. Though both of them are almost 3 hours long, so as a marathon, for 6 hours, it's it's quite demanding, I would say. Now, we're gonna get to the spoiler territory. I just wanted to talk about some of the best scenes that I like the most. So beware, if you haven't seen it yet, probably, stop listening now and come back to it later. But we're in the spoiler territory. So the best scenes for me, I'll start with the intro. The introduction is done with this, super dark orange color, and it's super, super tense. I really love the intro. It's like a 10-minute scene, and just like after the first 10 minutes, oh my god, this is just gonna be hell of an experience. This movie will really rock, and this intro certifies this. The next scene that I really loved was the harvester attack. Again, super, super tense. The sound design and the music is booming. You're afraid for the actors, for the heroes. The effects are incredible. You kind of almost cannot see that there is visual effects like CGI in this movie. It all looks very practical, and they combine these techniques together to mask any CGI. And yeah, it's so fresh these days, honestly. And I think this will be tested in time. If you look back at this 20 years from now, it's still gonna look very, very nice and current. So yeah, just like Lord of the Rings movies, right? Because they also used a lot of props. This is the same. So that was the second scene that I loved. The third scene was the first ride of the Shai Hulud, which is the sandworm. Again, extremely thrilling. The music does super great work. The camera is incredible, but also the acting of Timothy as Paul in this one is just super relatable. You almost stop breathing, and your heart skips a beat in there. The next one that I think is actually my favorite scene in the movie is kind of this Rabban's perch, almost in the middle of the movie, when they realize there is this figure of Muad'Dib, and they want to go after him, and Rabban is desperate, so he's just raging and killing everyone and everything, and actually it just turns against them, and Muad'Dib or Paul just is extremely scary in this movie. And this is something that I didn't expect to see. It was super, super nice, and I cannot wait to see it for the second time in there. The next scene that I really loved was kind of black and white, which was this arena scene on Gedi Prime, which is the Harkonnen planet. And Harkonnen planet has a black sun, and because of it, it looks kind of black and white. It's just super scary. It gives you anxiety when you watch this. Again, the music and just watching Fate, or Austin Butler as Fate, is just disgusting, like really disgusting. But also, I read the book multiple times. I reread it every few years, and I didn't expect that they will go there with that fight that was there. Like, there were 3 people fighting Fate, 2 of them were drugged, and one of them they forgot to drug, or they didn't drug, which is all of them were Atreides. And it was kind of a close fight, and you kind of become a bit more sympathetic for Fate, because he stabs his own shield, so he wants to be a bit more vulnerable, though he's still just a disgusting human being, right? And that is followed closely by the next scene, which was hand in the box for Fate between him and Lady Fenring. So kind of reminiscent of the first movie when Paul was tested with the hand in the box, and you need to endure this incredible pain. This was happening to Fate as well, and yeah, I love that scene as well. Just again because Léa Seydoux is unfortunately having such a short time in this movie, but very, very impactful. Then I think what we need to talk about, another, I think, like top 2 scene for me was the Siege speech, when they go to the south, and Paul drinks the water of life, and he just has this power of prescience, so he knows all of his past, but also sees multiple futures and can navigate to that one that is kind of the best for him and humanity. and he just becomes so confident in himself, and it's kind of scary because he's supposed to become a hero, and he was a hero, but kind of he becomes a villain in this scene. He's menacing. He almost is the same as the Harkonnens, and he steals the show. And kudos to Timothy for portraying this so well. And then, of course, we have the battle at the end, where you have these huge sandworms and Sardaukar fighting the Fedaya warriors from Fremen. Wow, just cannot wait to rewatch this. And then, last but not least, was one of the last scenes, was the duel with knives between Fate and Paul. This standoff, again, extremely thrilling, and that's the scene when I was saying that they didn't use any music, and it was so tense. Of course, I read the book, I know, that Paul survives, but still, it was so well done. And yeah, I cannot wait to rewatch this. It was really nice and thrilling ride, and just kind of kudos to every scene where Stilgar adores Paul, because it was kind of giving this comedic relief to it, right? Because Paul says, "Hey, I'm no messiah. I don't want to be your messiah. I don't believe in this shit." And Stilgar is always like, "Oh my God, this is exactly what Messiah would say, right? As it is written in the old books." So it's almost comedic in that way. Okay, so now I've been talking about the spoilers. What I wanted to now mention is there are some differences between the book and the movie. Famously, I will mention two that are not there, that I was expecting how they handle actually in this one, and I think they handled them well. So in the book, there was... I think the duration where Paul is with the Fremen is longer. So his sister is actually born already, and she's like 2 years old. But because her mother drank this water of life, she already becomes very much conscious in the womb. But when she's born, she's like a 50-year-old woman, basically. Like, she can talk, and she has an intelligence of, 200 IQ or something like that. So that's in the book, but here they handle it differently. So Alia is not born, but she talks from the womb to her mother. So kind of that's how she is involved. And then in kind of, let's say, this meditation or in the water of life scene for Paul, he meets with her when she's already grown up, 15, 16 years old or something like that. I think they handled it really well, because it would be so weird to have there like a 2-year-old, talking like a 50-year-old woman. So yeah, kudos to them. That was a nice idea. And then one thing that they didn't do, and I understand why, was Chani. So she has a love affair, right? She's the heart of the movie with Paul, and she actually has a son with him, Leto the second, called just after the father that was assassinated in the first part. And what they do in the book is he's killed by the Harkonnens really drastically. It's almost like a torture scene of a newborn. He's just a few months old or something like that. It's really, really bad. And and they kill him in the book, and that gives even more impact when in the end Paul decides to marry Princess Irulan over Chani, right? So that didn't happen here. And yeah, I think it would be even more impactful. Maybe it's a pity, but it would make the already a dark movie even darker. Okay, are there any negatives to this movie? Not that many, honestly speaking. I think one of the kind of negatives is that, and that's surprising because it's a 3-hour long movie, I think they left out a lot of the things. It feels like towards the last third, they were really hasting. So, for example, there is this Gurney Halleck versus Raban scene, and it kind of doesn't feel deserved. So the last act of this movie is too fast, and I feel like they left a lot on the cutting room floor. So I'm wondering if in future, when the Blu-ray comes out, there's like a director edition, director's cut, which is like 1 hour longer. I think that would be great, honestly speaking, but it's already a long movie. And the second negative maybe is just the omitted things from the book that like I said, like Alia and Chani-san, etc. Now, where is this leading? They actually decided to end this movie kind of very open-ended. So they want to do the part 3, which would be covering the second book called Messiah, Dune Messiah, and they set it up really well. So it's a open-ended ending, where, yeah, I think it's a totally different type of movie that we would be like. I think the audience is not prepared for this, because Paul's arc is just gonna get very, very dark, but it can be as much also the most powerful movie in that trilogy if they do it. And I think they are doing it, because Hans Zimmer actually already started to conduct the music for it, I believe. But Denis, the director, I think said that he needs a break from this universe, so he will do one movie in between. So I think we're like 5 years away, 5-6 years away from the third movie, and then they will wrap it up. Though there are 6 books altogether from Frank Herbert. My favorite is the fourth one, God Emperor of Dune. Oh my god, if they would get into this, because with these books, the first one is already super epic and super nice, but like every sequel to this book is more and more kind of LSD induced. It's just mind-blowing, the ideas that they are coming up with. So the fourth book, God Emperor of Dune, I really recommend you to check out this whole universe. I think altogether there are like 28 books, because when Frank died, his son, I think his name is Brian, started to write kind of follow-up books. So in the end, there are 28 of them. But apparently the books from Brian, I have never read any of them, but they are not that good. So I would just recommend maybe to read the 6 from Frank. All right. So just to compare the part 2 to part 1, like what I liked about part 1 is really it was about world building. This one doesn't have that much, because you already know that world, the politics, the families, all of it. So that's not there. And I also liked kind of the topic of betrayals and plotting in the first one. It's not really that much there in the part 2, but the part 2 is much more bombastic, full of action and bigger epic. Though the action, still, this is not an action movie just like, I don't know, Fast and Furious or something like that. If you're expecting that, you're probably not gonna be very happy with what you see on the screen. So who is this movie not for? I think, again, for the people that are really in those kind of Fast and Furious blockbusters, or Transformers or something like that, because it is long, it is very complex, the themes are very heavy, it is dark. Basically, this movie demands a lot from you. I think it can feel kind of boring for a lot of people, but it kind of really strikes a note for me, because who is it for? Yeah, just the people like me who are nerds into these sci-fi universes, into these worlds, into the fantasy, and who want, these heavy topics. And I think this is kind of the cinematic experience that happens once in 20 years or something like that. It's definitely one of the best sequels of all time, just like in Lord of the Rings, the follow-up to the Fellowship of the Ring was the Two Towers. This is kind of that. The same with original Star Wars, right? New Hope was followed up by Empire Strikes Back. This is kind of that. Godfather Part 1 followed by Godfather Part 2. This is that, because all of these sequels were kind of better than the previous one, and that doesn't happen all that often. The same you could say about Alien and Aliens by Cameron, or Terminator 1 and 2, or even the Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time, and this is kind of reminiscent of it. So it's an epic, with a huge scale sci-fi story that is very touching on these current topics. So yeah, like I said, very heavy, demands a lot from you, and it's super, super long. But I believe this movie will become better with subsequent viewings, so I cannot wait to see it more times. But since, my son has been born just 2 weeks ago, there's a lot to do at home with the two kids. I think I will only watch it for the second time when the Blu-ray is out. It will actually be on HBO Max, or it's now called just Max, in 45 days from now. So it will be on streaming very, very soon, and I cannot wait to watch it for the second and third time. And I'm pretty sure this is the type of movie that will become better and better in this. So yeah, this has been my review of Dune Part 2. As you can hear from my voice, I really loved it. I will need to watch it multiple times to tell you where it stands in my kind of top 10. I'm sure this is in my top 10, together with the Part 1. I think I take them as one thing altogether, as one story, because they just covered that one book. But from the story, the actors, the VFX, the camera work, the music, the sound design, it's just an experience that you owe to yourself. And mark my words, next year in the Oscars, they will really steal the show. So this has been Jakub Vaniš. Thanks a lot for joining for the third episode of JV Talks. I'm really enjoying, these sessions. I hope I will bring you the next one very soon, within the next 1 or 2 weeks. Again, so follow up for more. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out. And anyways, thanks a lot for following, and see you in the next one. Cheers.